When it comes to the subject of revival, not everyone's in agreement on how to experience revival or how to identify it once it starts occurring. Because of that, the approach to revival has been sort of a guessing game. Everyone knows that revival begins with prayer, but what type of prayer? What should you be praying? Should you be fasting? And again, what sort of things should you expect once revival starts happening? Is there a more certain way, a more assured way to make sure that you experience revival in your workplace, in your family, and in your church? I believe the answer is yes, and that's what I want to get into. So a while back, I wrote a booklet called The Key to Revival. I want to give you 3 principles from this booklet that I think will help you on your way to experiencing revival. Number 1, there's a difference between principle and ritual. What do I mean? Humility is a principle. Ritual is something that you do drawn from a principle, or it's an expression of a principle. Let me give an example. Humility is a principle. Washing people's feet is an expression of humility. It would be foolish for us to think that we can manipulate God through religious expression, washing people's feet or giving to the poor or just different things like that. However, the Bible does say that God sees humility, that he encourages us to be humble, and that humility causes God to move. God responds when we live principled lives. He doesn't necessarily respond when we express religious rituals. Number 2, if you can live without revival, don't pray for a revival. I think the reason that most of us don't experience revival is because it's just one item on the list of things that we're praying for. We go to God and we say, God, please give us revival. But maybe in the back of our mind, we're like, if it doesn't happen, I have a plan B. That's not the type of prayer that God honors, and that's not the type of prayer that initiates revival. Revival comes from a place of desperation when God's reviving work is our only hope and our only option. If we can pray for revival and at the same time be okay if it doesn't happen, then we probably aren't really in need of revival or not really desiring it. Number 3, release control and expectations. Proverbs 14:4 says, where there's no ox, the stable is clean. But where there is oxen, there's much increase. You have to make the choice. Do you want to be in control or do you want increase? Do you want your church to be predictable? Do you want your marriage to be this nice box? You want your workplace to meet all your expectations, or you want to see the fire of God fall? Here's the thing about fire. Most people, I've seen people pray for fire. They ask for the fire of God to fall. But once that fire gets out of their control, they don't want it anymore. So ask yourself the question, do you really want an uncontrollable fire of God in your workplace, in your marriage, in your church? Things are bound to get messy. When Jesus visits, he rearranges the furniture. So you have to release your expectation to have control, and then some of the other expectations you have. For example, Proverbs 27:7 says that to a hungry man, every bitter thing is sweet. Are you really hungry for revival? When Jesus shows up, are you going to accept him as he comes, or are you going to say, nah, that's not really what I was looking for? If you're praying for revival for your church and God start to bring in prostitutes and start to bring in people who are just going through life, people who drug dealers and users and people that don't fit your expectation on what you think the average churchgoer should look like, or the average somebody who's pursuing Christ should look like. And so you have to release your expectations and you have to release your desire for control if you want to experience revival. So again, there's a difference between principle and religious ritual. Pray for revival if you can't live without it, and release your expectations and your desire for control. If you do these 3 things, you're well on your way to experiencing revival. Thanks guys for watching the video. If you're interested in downloading the booklet, visit atthefountainministries.com.